From Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, and the home of hot chicken, it's the Rick Altizer Show. Sit back, buckle up. Rick will talk with the movers, shakers, and creators who put Christ in Christian entertainment. He's a man who's clear so the world can hear. Here's Rick Altizer.
Thank you for joining me today. My guest today is author, actor, and now film director, Kevin Sorbo. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, sir.
We did this 2 years ago. You were actually like my third guest I interviewed on the show. It was right at the beginning of the show, and we did an interview a couple years ago. And thank you again for being on again. And we're going to be talking about your new movie, Let There Be Light, that was out in theaters last year and now available on DVD. So, Kevin, talk to me about what's kind of happened with the movie and kind of how it came about and some of things that maybe surprised you about it.
Well, it was interesting. I know that, I've done a number of faith-based music through the year. As my wife Sam always says, every movie is a faith-based movie. And I go, you know what? That's true. It is. Because, you can have an atheist movie and they have a very strong faith. They believe in absolutely nothing. So some people think they have a stronger faith than some Christians do. But she wrote this movie. And I got a call out of the blue from Sean Hannity about 2 weeks after her and Dan Gordon, who co-wrote it with her, wonderful writer. He calls me up and he goes, "Sorbo, it's Hannity." And I went, "Hey, hi." I didn't even know he had my number. So he said, I loved your God's Not Dead and What If and Abel's Field movies. Do you have anything like it? So I said, actually, we do. We just finished the script. We flew to New York. Dan Gordon did the pitching. And 30 minutes later, Sean wrote a check. And a few months later, we're shooting in Birmingham, Alabama. And 6 months after that, the movie comes out. So people have to understand that, this doesn't usually happen. Money doesn't chase scripts. It's usually the other way around. Everybody's got a script and everybody's looking for money. I get probably 5 requests a day through my fan site. Say, hey, I got a script or I got an idea for a movie. And I'm like, oh my God, I keep posting. Well, guys, I'm only looking at funded things right now. I've got enough of my own scripts that I'm trying to get money on. But it just all came together great. I mean, it was a God thing throughout, and it's amazing that it happened the way it happened. Usually it takes 3 to 5 years for a script to get funded and get shot and put on the movie screen. We were probably a little bit over a year, which is very unheard of and unusual. And we opened up against Thor and Star Wars, and we were a little $2.5 million movie up against $250 million movies, and we finished number 2 per screen average those first few weeks out, and we're in theaters for 3 months, and now it's gone on to be in about 40 other countries. And it's just doing amazing. Now it's out on DVD, so I hope people get out there to Walmart or to Amazon and check it out.
That's awesome. And they can also get more information on lettherebelightmovie.com. They can find out more information about the movie. So let's talk about directing. So obviously, we know you as an actor, started out in Hercules. And, we talked about that in our last interview. And actually, if you want to hear that interview, you can go to rickaltizer.com or to the podcast on iTunes, and you can check that interview out. So we've talked about your book. We talked about some of the health issues you had and the stroke you had, and that's all in the last interview. But let's talk about this transition into directing. Is that something that you've been wanting to do for a while, and how did that transition come about?
Well, I actually started directing way back in the 90s on my Hercules TV series. So I've been a SAG member. I mean, I've been SAG for, Screen Actors Guild for about 35 years, but I've been a Directors Guild now for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, but this was my first feature film. And, I'm smart enough to know that I've worked with a number of very good directors, that I watch them and I see what they do and how they work with the camera crews. And I'm smart enough to realize that, I don't know other people's jobs as well as I know my own. Mm-hmm. So I want to get good people all around me and let them do their jobs. I'm going to have an idea that I want for costuming or hair or makeup or set design. But, I really leave it up to the people that are pros at their position when they read the script is to tell me what they think is great. And I'm all for probably letting them do 90% of the work for their jobs. I maybe have an input of 10% where I say, I'd like maybe this or that too. But for the most part, I just want to put myself and surround myself with good people. I think that's an easier way to do it. I want to have a good time on set. I keep a loose set. I keep a fun set. And I also keep a professional set. But to me, it's like, guys, you know what? We're trying to create something that can move people and touch people and heal people, and just let's convey a story together and have a good time doing it.
How do you approach a project differently as a director than you would an actor?
Well, I think everybody's got a little director in them. I mean, we all read books, right? People read books and they go see a movie made from a famous book. How many times do you hear, oh my gosh, the book was so much better than the movie? Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. I mean, I think every time we read anything, we see that picture in our heads. We see the visual inside our brain. And so everybody's got their ideas. And so I'm pretty loose on it. But I mean, I really dissect a script, even whether I'm directing or acting in it. I read it over and over and over. I take notes. I highlight things on it. I ask questions to the writers about things. I mean, I want it to make as much sense as possible. It drives me crazy when I see movies and I go, yeah, these are big time actors in that. Why would they not question the writing in that scene? Why would they not? Because if it doesn't make sense, and it's just, I hate writing that's just to set up something down the road, even though it doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's like, let's have a story that flows and makes sense for people and people can follow it. And I love Thor, Avengers. I love movies like that too, but I want characters that you really care about and can relate to as well. I mean, a good visual effect movie, it's fun, but you feel like a roller coaster afterwards. But I want people to walk out, which happened with God's Not Dead, happened to What If, and now it's happened with the Let There Be Light, where people walked out after the movie. They sat through the credits. We know this because we got so many emails, hundreds and hundreds of emails coming in. People saying, we went out and we talked in the hallway after the movie to people. We told our friends about the movie. That's what these kind of movies need. I used to get stopped all the time. You mentioned Hercules. I also did my second series, Andromeda. They were big hits around the world, and people used to stop me for that all the time. I get stopped most of the time now for my faith-based movies, and people say, please keep making more movies like this. We need these movies. Well, you know what? We need to support those movies too, because it is called show business. It's not show. You need to get out there. You need to support movies. These are movies with a great message, movies that fight the agenda that Hollywood is putting out there with all their violence. I get a kick out of them. They're screaming for all this gun control. Like all the good people in this country with guns are going to start shooting up schools. I mean, give me a break. Then stop doing movies that have so much violence. These are the same people that shoot movies with guns and explosions and just killing people left and right randomly. Yet they come out and sit there with their hypocrisy, say, let's get rid of guns. Well, then stop doing movies the way they do them.
Yes, man, can't agree with that anymore. And I wanted to also say that when you see a movie and you see a name actor, and sometimes you'll see that actor, you're talking about why didn't they question this script? Sometimes you'll see that actor and they're great, and sometimes you see the same actor and it's like, that's not a very good performance. It's not very believable. And I think so much of that has to do with the directors. I'm sure you already know this. I had Andy Irwin on the show last week, and we were talking about that, about directing and how much impact a director has on an actor. So sure. I wanted to comment on this particular movie, Let There Be Light, and I thought, this is just my personal opinion, I thought this was some of the best acting I've ever seen you do. I thought your acting in this was superb. So how do you, I thought you did a great job. How do you, I mean, like, seriously, it was really good. How do you, as a director and an actor, how did you do such a good job directing yourself?
I've got to give kudos to Dan Gordon and my wife for a great screenplay, because it really comes down to the writing in virtually everything in movies and television. And they had an amazing script. I had very few questions on this. I mean, the first time it was finished with Dan's draft after Sam's, I'm on the airplane, I'm reading this thing, and I'm at the window seat, there's a guy next to me, and I'm laughing at places, and then I cried at a couple places, and the guy looks over at me, he knew who I was, and he goes, Is that script making you do that? And I said, yeah, it is. I said, this is an amazing, amazing script. And for me, when I was pretty much in most of the scenes in Let There Be Light. So I had one of my assistant directors there call out the action. I wanted to not break character. I want to be the guy in the set just before getting an emotional scene and go, and action. That's the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the space I needed to be in for that scene, whatever emotion was being called for. And I would do the cut of course, after I felt like, okay, I got what I wanted from that, whether it's from me, the other actor, whatever it may be. And I'm from the school of like Clint Eastwood. I like what he does. And I saw an amazing documentary on HBO about Steven Spielberg. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody wannabe director should watch that, because it was very educational. And he sort of works the same way that I do. I can't compare myself to him, but what I'm saying is that when he said how he does things, and I know how Clint Eastwood does things, where, 2 takes and let's move on. 3 at the most. You don't have to have 16-hour days on a movie set. There's so much wasted time. And when I'm an actor on a movie or TV show, I'll be like an assistant AD. I'll be the one going, "What are we waiting for? Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!" So it's just, people need to get moving on sets. It's ridiculous. I always tell directors, when after a day or two straight of working 16-hour days, I always whisper to them, Clint Eastwood shoots 8-hour days and he makes Academy Award nominated movies. Okay, you can move along. You do not have to do the old Hollywood way of thinking. You have to do that, because we have so much better technology, so much better lighting systems, so much better cameras, that the setup time doesn't have to be as long as it used to be. And there's so many talented DPs out there that have amazing lighting, and they just know what they're doing. And to me, it's like, like, once again, surround yourself with good people. Let me do the acting when I got to act. Let me direct when I got to direct.
In case you didn't realize it, you're listening to a really nice guy. The Rick Altizer Show on Bot Radio, 89.1 FM, 1160 AM, Nashville.
Did you feel that was one of your, top performances? Did you feel good about your performance in that movie?
I did. I felt it during the filming, but I certainly saw it more when we were doing the editing, because I was locked into what I was doing so much in the set. And we shot that movie in like 15 days, which is unheard of. We just really had to plow through it, because, the budget of the movie was the budget of the movie, but it looks like a $10 million movie, and we shot it for 2.5. So I had a good feeling about it, but it really comes down to, once again, we didn't have the promotional money, the P&A money, the promotion and advertising budget that these big budget movies do. They may shoot a Thor for $250 million, but they put another 100 to 125 million into promoting it.
Right.
That's why they're in every basketball game and football game, and they're in every theater before other movies you're there to see, and they get huge promotion on those things. We had to rely on word of mouth. And that's why, once again, people that say they want more of these movies that their families can go see, they got to get out there and support these movies. So I hope people get out there. I hope they get out to go to Amazon. Hope they get to Walmart and pick up, Let There Be Light. So hopefully it'll happen. I know that you know about Faith Films Network, I think, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's also, I was going to just go right there.
Let's go for it.
When I did the Shonda movie, all these women were crying, and the movie was over, and they just got up and left. And I said, that's not good enough. We need a pastor right now to pray with these people. So here's a wonderful way to get Let There Be Light in a church, in your church. You can go to faithfilmsnetwork.com and find out how to do that at no cost to your church at all. As a matter of fact, it's a way to make some income for your church. But it's what I share with pastors that there's an old licensing model that's kind of antiquated for when Christian movies would go direct to DVD. Or direct to video, they'd go direct to VHS, and so they had
most of them do, yeah.
They had this licensing model that really doesn't work for filmmakers, because it's so expensive to make a movie. It costs so much money, as you said, not just to make the movie, but then to market the movie and to get your movie onto a screen. I don't know if people know this. They have to pay about $1,000 per screen. So you've got your movie on 800 screens. That's $800,000. You haven't made the movie. You haven't marketed the movie. You're almost $1 million in just getting it on screens. And so that's why it's so important that we buy movie tickets and we buy the DVDs. It's important as Christians. If we want to keep having Christian movies, we got to buy a ticket. We got to go to the theater. We got to see it. And so I can't echo that any stronger. I'm with you all the way as a filmmaker myself. I'm with you all the way. We got to buy tickets if we want to keep having Christian movies.
Yep, I definitely agree with you right there, and we got to keep that going. Hey, can I throw something in here? We got something happening that my wife and I are hosting.
Yes.
We're hosting a trip to Israel, and we're going this summer. It's In July, people can go to sorboisraeltrip.com. That's Sorbo, S-O-R-B-O, israeltrip.com, and get information. And come on, join with us and walk through the footsteps of Jesus. We are going to have an amazing trip, and people will absolutely freak out when they go there. I've never been. I can't wait. We have the best tour guides available, and we would love people to come along if they want a little trip to head to Israel this summer for the 70th anniversary of their independence.
Do you know the date in July? The dates?
It is July. Gosh, what is it now? I should know this off the top of my head. I think it's July. What is it? The 15th. The 15th through the 26th. That's it. 15th through 26th.
And that's sorboisraeltrip.com. Boy, I want to go to that.
You should come.
Yeah, all right. I want to go. I'm excited about that. So thanks. So getting back to Let There Be Light, you also directed your wife and your two sons.
Yes,
so,
it was a family affair.
Now, I have two sons, and I know how well they follow my direction. and I have a wife. You've been married 20 years. I've been married 32 years. And I know how well my wife follows my direction as well. Yeah, I know. So what was that like directing? Let's start with Sam. What was it like directing Sam? How'd that work out?
She's a tough one. She's a Pittsburgh, New Yorker. So she's very smart, very strong-willed, very opinionated. Sure we butt heads a couple times, but like I said, I'm always open to hear what actors have. When I get on a set, I may have an idea what I want to do with that scene, but I want to see it up on its feet. This is the first time I'm really watching the actors on the set, watching the actors say the word in the location we're going to be at. I will collaborate with my director of photography as well, my DP, and we work stuff out. I'm not always saying this is what I want, this is the way it's going to be. I want to see it. I want to keep it fresh. I want to keep it loose. And I storyboard a couple things, especially if it's a fight scene, action scene, something like that. But overall, it's like, okay, let's just keep this loose. And she can be tough with it, but she was great. And it wasn't. She actually came up to me and gave me some ideas when I was doing a scene, when I was acting in a scene, and which was very helpful. And I don't have the ego to say you can't do that. And as far as my boys, they've been taking acting classes for 3 years now, and we homeschool, so they grow up on movie sets because I shoot probably about 4 or 5 movies a year since 2005 when Andromeda finished. I've shot 55 movies now, so there's probably about 20 I wish I didn't do, but this is what happens. But the boys, I told them, I said, you have to audition for this. I'm not going to give you this role. This is not my money I'm playing with. And I need to know that you guys can handle it. I'll tell you what, within 3 days, the crew's coming up to me and saying, you better turn up the chops, man. These boys are acting you off the page.
There you go.
So they did a great job. I'm very proud of them.
And, I was just thinking about, too, not only is there the dynamic of directing your own wife, but you're directing the scriptwriter as well, the screenwriter. So she's got a very clear idea of how this scene needs to play. And you're the director, and you've got your idea. So I could imagine that would be, obviously you had 20 years of working out communication skills. So that was great. Was it a pleasant set?
Oh, it was a pleasant set. No question. I mean, there was only a couple times that maybe after the day was done, we had a good talk about certain things, but for overall, it was a pretty smooth set. And once again, I had a great crew. We had the Irwin Brothers crew for the most part, where they shot Woodlawn there. And I'm going to throw out a plug for these guys. They got a movie coming out, I Can Only Imagine, and it is phenomenal. So I recommend going out and see I Can Only Imagine. Yeah,
I had Andy on the show last week, and we talked about that. We were also going to have his brother John on next week.
They did. Did you see the movie at the NRB?
I've seen it twice now. Yeah, I saw it at ICVM, and then I also saw it. I got a screener for the show.
It is a good movie. My buddy Dennis Quaid does a fantastic job in it as well.
Yes, excellent. And just really was really impressed with Let There Be Light. I think it's something that people ought to see if they haven't seen it already, or bring into their churches. And it's a great way because it does have such a strong message of redemption and forgiveness. And I think it's a great opportunity to bring into your church for a pastor to come up and then pray with people afterwards. You were talking about how people wanted to stay in the theater. Here's a great opportunity to pray. And so, we had talked a couple years ago, we had talked about being a Christian in Hollywood, being on sets in movies. And 2 years ago, you said, I don't think I share my faith as probably as much as I should on these sets. Does that change as a director? Do you feel more free to share what this film is about and the message behind the film as a director?
Well, it does. I don't have to be a director to do that. I'm more than happy to talk about it. Like I said, I get stopped a lot. And what's been interesting is to get emails from agnostics and atheists that actually went to see the movie for whatever reasons. I look at that as a win. I'm not going to beat people over the head. They're not going to change my point of view, and I'm probably not going to change their point of view. For me, I don't necessarily want to preach to the choir, but I certainly want the choir to support the movies and show up. But I love it when these people come up to me and say, you know what, I don't feel the way you feel. I don't know. I think I call myself a spiritual person. I don't know if there's a God or whatever, but I saw your movie and it made me think. And I just got an email just yesterday from a guy in Canada, because we're up in Canada right now in theaters. And he said, I'm a Christian. My wife never was. We've watched all your movies because we're fans. She loved you since Hercules. So we watched What If and God's Not Dead. We went together to the movie theater and saw Let There Be Light. She broke down afterwards and started to cry. We prayed together and she accepted Christ.
Oh, praise the Lord.
Just that one person. I mean, that to me makes it all worthwhile. I mean, I had a woman come up to me in the Salt Lake City airport a couple of years ago. I may have told you this. I can't remember. And she said, are you Kevin Sorbo? And I said, yeah, heavy accent on her. I could tell she's from the Middle East. She said, I live in Phoenix, but I'm from Iraq. I saw your movie. I'm a Muslim. But after I seen God's Not Dead, I became a Christian. And she had just got baptized about a month earlier. So pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. And you see the power of God. You see the power of the message. And, you can't please everyone. I've had Christians say my movie was too Christian. Other Christians said it's not Christian enough. So it's like, you can't win. It's like, guys, we're trying to put out a good movie overall. Are you going to tell me that overall, looking at that movie, if you are a Christian, that you didn't really like it, that you thought it was horrible, really? So I think for the most part, it's just you do what you can, you get a message out there, and you hope people will look at it and respond to it.
As a Christian,
yes.
How does it, talk to me about just the satisfaction you get when you put a movie together. You spend all this time, all the writing, and you're involved in the script with your wife, and you're hearing about it, and you make this movie and all the work then you get it funded and you get it on the screens, and then when it finally gets out there, and then when you're seeing people being touched, and you're seeing the Spirit moving through the film that God gave you to make. Talk to me about just that emotion of how that feels.
What's great, and I did this with God's Not Dead, and I also did it with Let There Be Light. I would go into a movie theater, wherever I was in the country, doing promotion, doing whatever it was, when the movie was first out, those first 5-6 weeks, and I would go in there, after the movie already started, when the lights were out, and find a seat. There were a lot of places where I was surprised to see that a screening was sold out, so I had to buy a ticket, but I would sneak in there for the next viewing, and I would sit way in the back, and really was just to watch people's reaction and to see people laugh at the spots that you thought were funny while you filmed it, to see people cry and be touched at the spots that you thought would hit people's emotional chords. It's that's why I wanted to be an actor, because I loved, when growing up as a kid, seeing movies. I saw a lot of old movies because my mom, we watched all the old movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I fell in love with acting way back then. Since I was 11, I said, I'm going to be an actor, So I wanted to touch people the way the movies touched me. I wanted to move people. I wanted people to think and laugh and get angry at social injustices, so to speak, and be happy that things got solved, and be happy that there is a happy ending, that good does triumph over evil. And, you see so much stuff coming out of Hollywood now where they celebrate the bad. They celebrate the horrible people, the bad people. And to me, it's, we got a battle to fight. I mean, there hasn't been a Touched by an Angel, Highway to Heaven, or Seventh Heaven on TV in 18 years. Right. Why can't we get something like back on the air? We have 2 TV series that would be huge, and they're not Touched by an Angel. They're not, which is a wonderful show. Rumble Downey was a friend. She was actually in the very first movie of Hercules we shot way back in 1993, before I got her series Touched by an Angel. But I've got 2 series, and they're more like Punched by an Angel. There's a strong message in there. I'm hoping we get this thing sold. We pitched Netflix on it, so we're hoping that they open those doors, because it's weird, the ideology of Hollywood. They're afraid to make a product that will reach 10. I said, look, you're ignoring 50, 60, 70 million people in this country that want this product.
Yeah,
you're in a business called show business. Why do you want to put out? You can do Lucifer, the TV series, but you can't do one about God.
Well, because they hate God. I mean, we want to define ourselves. We don't. Well, we are out of time. I'm just so. This went so fast. I want to encourage people to find out more about LetThereBeLightMovie.com, and also if you want to get the movie in your church, FaithFilmsNetwork.com. The movie is available on DVD at all locations where you get movies, and we just encourage you to check that out. And Kevin, thank you so much for being on the show.
All right, sir. All the best to you.
Thanks. God bless, Kevin.
God bless you. Thanks.
If there's a show you've missed, you can go to my website, rickaltizer.com, and catch up. Or you can listen to my podcast in iTunes or wherever you hear your podcasts. Just search for The Rick Altizer Show. Altizer is spelled Altizer. I want to thank you for listening. Hey, would you tell a friend about this show and share the love? Be sure to check us out again next week as we discuss how we communicate the gospel through media to our culture. Let's be clear so the world can hear. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.